May God bless us today as we try to listen to the Spirit and see what we can get out of this particular passage. Are you hearing me all? Good. So, it is a fact that most developed country, example USA countries, where most developed countries used immigrant laborers to build elaborate economic infrastructures. Many economically deprived two-thirds developing countries who have educated as well as uneducated cheap skilled laborers were ready to jump in and go anywhere to earn to support their family in poverty in their respective countries. Here's an article I read from CNBC written by Nisa Anwar and Sri Jagaraj. And the title of the articles is Why Rich Countries Are So Dependent on Migrant Workers. Quote. And here is what these two authors says. Quote, economic globalization has created more migrant workers than ever before. According to the United Nations, 1 in 20 workers worldwide is a migrant worker. That's a lot. Migrant workers are people who live and work in a country where they don't hold citizenship. Globally, there are 67.4% of migrant workers, or 114 million, live in wealthy countries. There is no universally accepted statistical definition for labor migration, but the workers are usually categorized by the industries they work in, and their problems vary according to let me repeat that. The problem vary according to the jobs they do. You have varying degrees of exclusion, injustice when it comes to the issues of basic pay, working conditions, living conditions, recourse to basic labor rights and advices. End of quote. Here are a couple of slides that I want to share with you. Chinese migrant built 90% of the western portion of the Central Pacific Railroad. There we go. In 2019, there was a commemoration, 150 years of commemoration in San Francisco. The second part of the slideshow is present-day Dubai. That is Dubai right there. I've been there. It's a very, very classy world where people drive fancy cars. Okay, there's another one. There we go. That's Dubai. But Dubai was built by migrant workers from Nepal, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Philippines, and Sri Lanka. That is the living condition right there. They just put them in one room and they have one little kitchen that all of them will have to cook at different time. If your next door neighbor is Filipinos, then you have to cook different things that one might not eat. And so just imagine that. Okay. Then I'm going to show you some Nepali women from the Himalayas. These are Nepali women. Nepali women works as hard as the men of the country. They go very early in the morning to the fields, and in the evening, as they return home, they bring timbers on their forehead. There's another one. There we go. These are Nepali women carrying loads on their forehead so that they can cook dinner for the family. My mother had a Nepali man, a guy, who helped her in the kitchen. He was born on rice field. Nepali women, even if you're pregnant and healthy and strong, if you are not ready to deliver your baby, you go to work. And so his mother gave him birth and left her on the rice field, threshing rice. And then she went to work. And then came home with a new baby. That's the kind of tenacious, brave, hard-working Nepal have. So I have showed you these slides to help us focus on what is going on in our text. As you may remember or may not, let me refresh you. Last Sunday, Joseph finally decided to reveal himself to his brothers, right? Brothers who sold them to Midianites to be a slave in Egypt, right? And he worked hard in Egypt and earned credibility. And he had leadership and management style that worked well with the Pharaoh. Pharaoh and him had this wonderful camaraderie and was able to function effectively. And so Joseph became the governor of Egypt. This boy slave sold to slavery had become the governor. And so when there was famine for 7 years, Joseph was able to release grains from his granaries. And Joseph's father, Jacob, sent his 11 sons to Egypt to buy grain. Right? You remember the story now? And when those 11 brothers showed up in front of Joseph, the governor, he immediately recognized, these are my brothers. Right? And so he did all kinds of ways not to reveal who he was, but doing little things to help them. Right? And so last Sunday, Joseph decided he's going to reveal to him who he was. Right? So in that story, Joseph finally said, hey, is the old man alive? And they said, yeah, the old guy is still alive. Well, I think you should move him and all of you to Egypt so that you can be close to me and I can help you. Right? So Joseph and his family, the extended family, everybody moved to Egypt and they were migrants. Are you with me? And so they were not just few, Jacob's family, but there were a large Jewish migrants working in Egypt. And the present Pharaoh have no idea about Joseph. But this Pharaoh had a very strong personal prejudice against Israel. Right? That's what I read in the text, right? And so this Pharaoh labeled these Israelites as they are, they are like lich. They're bloodsuckers. They're getting overpopulated. They're going to take over our country. Does it sound like something we have heard before? And when war comes, they are going to fight against us. Did that happen in this country? Right? Japanese internment camps, remember? Yeah, they went and got all the Japanese, and then they took them to internment camps because the issue was when the war breaks out, these American Japanese will fight against us. Our former bishop, Grand Hagia, was a little boy when he was taken to internment camp. And he brilliantly talks about the experience that he went through, and especially his parents. And so this particular story is it's not something that is done deal in the past. It's very classic that it happens even today, right? Even in Nagaland, we are close to, this is Nagaland, Bangladesh is here. And so Nagaland also get a lot of Bangladeshi migrants. If you ask if a Naga parents ask their son or daughter, hey, we are going to the village for a couple of days, and these are some of the things that we want you to do. Tend the garden, water the garden, dig some ditches, whatever. You know what our young people will do? They go to the market and they will hire a couple of Bangladeshis in a very, very low wage and will tell them, do this, do this, do this. And some of them might get paid and some of them may not get paid. They might just give them a plate of food. So this Exodus story is not something in the past, but it is happening even today. It's a real story. You see? So there is very interesting things that is happening in this particular text. And one of the things that kept coming to my mind was, where is God in all this thing? Is God hearing the prayers of the people? Is God having fun in our misery? And the answer is no. God is not having a heyday with our misery. Then I reread the text again. And then I found out that God was working in the periphery to make something great and wonderful happen. Right? Miriam, Moses' mother, is pregnant. And with God's wisdom, instead of throwing the baby into the Nile, decided to weave some reeds and put him in the little basket and carry him to the Nile where Pharaoh's daughter comes to bathe. So God was using Miriam, right? And then Moses had a sister. And the sister is on the lookout. She's probably sitting on the bank somewhere and watching where the basket is going. Right? And when the servant of the Pharaoh's daughter comes near and sees the basket, of course, Moses' sister comes and then rightly approaches and even initiates and gives her some idea that, we can find a Israeli woman, a Hebrew woman, who can help raise this baby. And then they said yes. And Moses' sister goes back to her mother, and mother comes and raises Moses for Pharaoh. Is God working? Yes, God is still working. And then there's another one. And then Pharaoh hires two midwives. Two midwives. And the instruction for them was, when you are delivering babies, when the baby is coming out of mother's womb, if it's a boy, kill him. If it's a girl, let them live. Wow. Pharaoh basically allowed infanticide, right? Kill all the baby boys. Yeah, infanticide. But these two Hebrew women, they had good God-given conscience, right? Instead of killing baby boys, they let live. They allow them to live. And when Pharaoh questioned, hey, why didn't you follow my instruction? And these two Hebrew ladies says, you know what? We Hebrew women, we're strong. Even before we came to deliver the baby, they had given the baby birth. They have given birth. Ooh. How about that? It's almost like those Nepali women, in the rice field, deliver the baby, put him there, and go to work. They were strong women. And so Pharaoh probably have nothing to say. See? And so what I'm trying to say is sometime when we pray as people of faith, we want God to reply to our prayer instantaneously with thunder and lightning. To prove to us that I am here, I'm going to help you, I'm going to rescue you, I'm going to, But sometimes God doesn't do that way. God was working on the periphery, bringing all these people together and nurturing a boy named Moses, who will become the liberator for the children of Israel. He will be the leader who will go to Pharaoh and ask the Pharaoh, let my people go. Think about that. Think about that. Moses got all the education, leadership style, whatever, that he can run the country. And God just put him in the right place. Grew up in the palace. Knew the right thing. then he went to Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go." You know? Because that's the instruction God gave to Moses. Go and tell Pharaoh. And if Pharaoh asks you, "Who told you?" God said to Moses, "Tell him, I am that I am have sent me." Isn't the Bible stories interesting? They're so fascinating. And they simply reflect our own struggle. And sometimes we become so impatient with God. We become so impatient with our own faith understanding. And we want to give up God. We want to leave church. We want to leave the fellowship because we are mad and angry. That's okay. We're human. We can get mad. Yeah? When my mother and father died, I was mad too. I was here in the United States. I had just visited. Jessica and her sister was little. I took them after 12 years. I have not seen them for 12 years. We went. And, I wasn't sure this was going to be tough. So, we came. A couple of weeks after, I received a fax. Called home right away. Well, my dad was very sick. His kidney was failing. I didn't even know he had kidney issue. His kidney is failing. And God is so mysterious. I left some money to buy land. Not a lot of money, just little money. I said, when somebody's selling a land, buy me a piece of land. So I told my siblings, the money I left for the land, use that money to help Daddy. And so they took him to a university hospital, and he received some kidney dialysis. He didn't last long, just a couple more months. And he died. It was a beautiful day. He got up and he told my sisters, "I want a haircut." I said, "Okay." So they took him for a haircut. After the haircut, he said, "I want to buy a new shirt. Pinstripe should be blue, little blue." Got the shirt, came home, took a shower. He put his shirt, put a tie, and then his old friend came to visit him from a different state. They had a wonderful visit. After the visit, his friend left. He went to the bathroom. That is where he collapsed. Isn't that interesting? So, I couldn't go because we just come back. But it was something painful, right? When somebody close to you dies. All of us should be mad, angry. But not at God, but angry at life situation, right? Yeah. And so I think sometimes we punish ourselves too much. trying to make God do things our way. And you and I both know now that it does not happen that way. But it does not mean that God never responds to our prayer, because like this Moses stories, there are so many people in the periphery that are doing something to make things better. You know, last 3 years right here, I've seen how well this congregation works. You know, our phone tree, just something happens, something in emergency room, we call them, boom, boom, bing, bing. Now everybody knows and everybody's praying, right? Everybody's praying. We are not ashamed of praying for one another. That's what church is about. You know, in the periphery, we are working with each other, for each other, not against one another. That is what I see in this text. And so, don't give up on yourself and on God. Don't let circumstance dictate you, but you focus on yourself and make the right decision, like those Hebrew women. Do the right thing. Make sense? I'm done.